You thought it was 2D only. It's not. These are the things you can do. And really with a pretty efficient amount of code. There's not tons and tons of code in these things. It's actually very straightforward. And in the process, we've kind of learned a lot about things that we can improve in MonoGame. So it's been a really good, a really good learning experience for the foundation and the team working behind MonoGame. And I think it's improved MonoGame a ton over the last couple months. So yeah, I guess that's the big update for those two. I guess we want to move on to the Ascent update. So on the Ascent side of things, we're still working on content there. The Dean, can you move it, or not Dean, Simon, can you move it forward to the next slide? So the Ascent update. So we're still working on the Ascent update. It slowed down a little bit as I was a little bit distracted between other projects and helping kind of clean up and finish out the 3D platformer demo. But we've made some work on the back end on art content. You can go to the next slide. So we have some. This is the start of some actual new content for the game. It's not fully integrated at the moment. Where I'm in the process of doing that. In fact, what I'm doing at the moment, or was doing before this, was moving all the content or the content system in the Ascent demo to use the same content, the new content builder, so that we start using that even in this other demo. I think it's going to help us a lot with being able to quickly update content and be able to get a better workflow, where you can change the content and see it in game instantly. We don't have any live connectivity between the content builder. The new content builder doesn't do live updates yet, but that's high on our list. So maybe we'll have something to show there in the coming months. But with the new content coming in, it's going to start looking a lot nicer. I'm doing a push towards a little bit more visual effects, like some atmospheric stuff, so that we have a little bit of depth fog to give it a little bit of atmosphere. And we talked about a month ago about particle effects and particles, and we're still kind of working out what our best path is there. There's not a lot of good particles are weird. There's not a lot of good third-party particle systems. There's one or two. Most game engines have their own particle system of some sort that's been built over decades. So it's difficult to decide what to do there, but we're going to try to come up with something that gives us enough of a particle system that we can do some good stuff. It's interesting how particles have never become a separate tool unto themselves, like sound or modeling or textures or anything else. It's never become its own thing. It's always been something that's just like, the game engine has some sort of particle system. You can figure it out. It's all different. So we're trying to figure out a good solution for particles, because I think that'll add a lot to the atmospherics. The latest builds the latest code that's up for Patreon users has the new physics stuff in it. It has the latest rendering stuff. We're trying to work on adding some new character models, or player models and stuff. That's still a work in progress. I don't have any renders to show at the moment, but we're getting close to having something there. I was hoping it had it ready for this meeting, but just didn't come through. But yeah, so progress is being made there. It's been just a little bit of a slow month, mostly just because we've been trying to really push the FPS starter kit out. But yeah, that's basically where we're at with the Ascent demo.
Right, in which case we can pop over now to our guest. For a firm apologies to anyone on YouTube who didn't have any audio. Discord stroke again with not changing the output, so it's fixed.
Oh, what is that? What is that going to mean?
Well, it just means
is that going to mean
I'll upgrade the recording later, so the recording's fine. It's just that Discord didn't output audio to the recorder.
Annoying.
Yeah, it's in our lunch and add it to the list. But anyway, yeah. Jonathan, we shall hand over to you as
So are you wanting mostly the story behind the game a little bit, and then I'll show it? Does that sound like a good?
Well, if you want to share your screen and talk, that'll probably be good.
Yeah,
people have got something to look at.
Yeah. Okay, let me launch the game here and click share.
There you go. Oh.
You should be hearing some music, maybe. Yeah. Okay. I drew this guy so no one had to watch me draw, but.
Anyway, the stage is yours. So introduce, talk, and go.
Yeah. So if I can remember the history, in 2011, we put out, like, at HitSense, we put out a little web game called drawstickman.com. It's probably still out there, but it was just like a JavaScript HTML like story, basically. Like, it maybe took you a minute or two to beat it. And from that idea, we got so many people coming to the site, like, it crashed their web server. We wrapped the website in a mobile app and put it on the App Store. So we had a web view version of this thing. And from there, we got in the top 10 on the iOS App Store with this little 2-minute like web game. So all this is happening, and we're also like working on customer projects, but we decide to kind of pivot and make a real game, right, instead of a 2-minute story. And so that's what this game here I have is. It's Draw Stickman Epic is the actual game, made with MonoGame, and this came out in 2012. And we came out, I think, like, when Windows 8 launched, we were like in the Windows 8 store. We were on iOS. We were on Google Play. We were on Amazon. And so we, using MonoGame, we were able to go to all those places, right? So we can play the game a little bit. I drew this guy, and I'm going to hit check. It kind of, the way it begins is very similar to how the story was in the web game. It's kind of teaching you how to move. And it says, I need a friend, draw me a friend, right? So I'm going to make the friend not so not so detailed. Why not? Well, actually, let's make him mad too. How about that? And let's name him Bob. How about that? So I think this entire game, if I remember, is just calling Sprite Batch to draw all this. And we had people who were animators and designers, graphic artists that use Flash. And I think we did all the animation just in Flash, and we had this like little tool to export the animation so that we could use it in the game. And the way he walks, that's kind of interesting too, is I think the same animators I'm mentioning, they animated a square that was approximately the dimensions of a Stickman, and each line is like a Sprite Batch draw call. And I think we did some math to fit the points on the square, so that they could follow these animations over time. In some of the later games, I think we ended up like rendering them to an image, which kind of actually sounds like a smarter thing to do, a single image. But this was also our first game we had ever made. So the whole the whole game here was meant to be kid friendly. But I don't know why. Like, if let's say I draw some fire here, it's gonna spread and probably kill these bunnies, right? Like, but it's a pretty fun game. I have not played this in a while, honestly. And when I can think of when this game came out, obviously iOS and Android, it ran on Xamarin. And I remember going to meet people at Xamarin and showing them this game, right? Which is a big reason why I'm at Microsoft today, right? So we can just beat this level. I think things can get crazy when this dynamite goes off. Yeah. So nothing about the game is meant to be difficult. Hopefully I won't die because there's no health. This may be the end of the level. We'll see. I think it is. Yeah. So there's more secrets in there, but every level has, like you can find colors to give you new pencil colors in if you play the game over. You know, I only had 4 to choose from with a default save, but. Yeah, this is. I'm trying to remember how far I have to play to see the troll. And I think he might be like level 3. We may not get that far. Oh no. Uh-oh. Oh man. And it's crazy that this still works. Like,
Yeah.
Microsoft does a good job with backwards compatibility stuff, huh?
It's also a testament to like MonoGame itself. It's one thing we've tried to reiterate in state. It's a case of the overside API has not changed, and games that were built 5, even 10 years ago still run. It's just that they get the benefits of all the modern changes and all the updates when they go to tweak it. I mean, the biggest issues we always had were with content and how the content pipeline worked, but the underlying game, how it draws, should just work.
Yeah. I'm having a feeling that this is a dead end that I'm going on. Because
yeah, we want to hold it against you to remember the game from
it is
more than 10 years ago.
I found a comic book page. That was the whole reason for that dead end. Yeah. Yeah, one thing about, I said, is just calling sprite batch a whole bunch to make this whole game. And then we had the data exported from Flash. I'm pretty sure that was just like JSON files, right? And then we wrote code that could load them. And then over time, it moves the sprite what the JSON file says to do. And that's how we get these bobbing trees, the moving Stickman. All right, here's our friend. We found him. It's Bob. And then we meet the main bad guy. So we got our first enemy, really. But all you have is one pencil for now, so I think. How do you beat him? Huh? Oh, I know. I remember now. I'm gonna die. You have to wait till he stands up, and then you get him.
I have to wonder how much of Stickman was an influence on Maximum Magic Marker. There's a lot of drawing in that game too.
Yeah, I've seen other things that remind me of it. That I'm like, did they see this game? I don't know. Like there's the company that made Among Us had an earlier game called Henry Stickman. It was kind of like a story. Mm-hmm. And it says Stickman in the name, but I don't like. I'm like, I don't know. Did we influence them? I don't know. It would be cool if we did. Because Among Us is huge, obviously. Okay, so this level have a new pencil. And I think what's interesting about it is if you draw an open cloud, it rains, and they see the tree growth. And if you draw a colored in cloud, let's do it around the bunny. It should be a lightning bolt. Let's see. Yeah, and he's toast. And so the level design in this game isn't super great either. Like when I think like, why do the pencils change every level? Like just questions like that, like there's not a good answer. Like that's the way we happen to make it, you know. I think something happens if you rain on these vegetables enough. I'm trying to remember.
And how many people were there involved with the actual game dev side of things, and how many artists, etc.?
So we probably had 3 developers, and one of them was really focused game developer, and then the other guy was like me, like developing customer apps kind of guy. And I think we had 3 animators, and then one person who was just art, like, so, you know, a decent number of people. I swear something happened. Maybe I have to get these tomatoes. We'll go play the level if this doesn't work. Oh, it did happen. The puzzle piece. That's it. Yeah. So if you get all the puzzle pieces in the whole game, there's a secret level at the end. So this is fun thing, I think. Oh, I did it wrong. If I was on it, I can do it. Okay. Oh no. I think that was also a hidden thing. Okay. Here's the real puzzle of the level. If you walk into those bees, they'll hurt you. And so you just kind of find out that if you make all these flowers grow, you can get past. I wish I'd remembered that waterfall thing, because I think that was a different exit. Okay, what's this way? There's nothing up here. What's that? There's an arrow here. Oh, I remember now. Man, you guys are really getting me to remember stuff. Like I literally have not played this in years. Like I remember my son being very young. So if you go in here, you see that you woke up this dude here. And he's not really an enemy. How does he hurt you? Let me find out. No, he's just gonna unblock the way. We got it.
So one of the things going through, I mean, from the story of how the game was created and built and the tools you've used in between it, what sort of some of the key elements that sort of kept you awake while both building and also shipping the game?
Yeah, so what, like we also came out with Epic 2. And one of the things that like in Epic 2 we went to Unity, and it wasn't a developer choice. Because I would say all the developers are like, oh, you know, who worked on this one. But Unity gave like a level editor, so non-technical people could do things, right? Where like this game, we kind of had a custom built like end-to-end workflow. Like you're in Flash, you run this thing, you get the JSON out, and then the game can run, right? So that's an area I wonder if MonoGame could have some kind of an editor one day, or you know what I mean, like not to say that you really need it. It depends on who your team is, you know.
Yeah, you know, that's something we've discussed in the past, and it's more of a, you know, I think that what you did in the first one was really the path that is probably in my opinion, is the more right path, is building a tool that suits your game, right? Like, because while Unity and tools like that and Unreal Engine, great, they have an editor, but it doesn't really fit this game, you know. you're trying to figure out how to make it fit the game, right? Or how do I use this full 3D editor to build this game that it's mostly 2D, but not really. It's 2.5D kind of thing. It becomes difficult. So, it's interesting. It would have been interesting to see if you took your tools to the next level, like how could it improve, and things are better now than they were back then. There's a lot more C# resources and stuff. I think it would be easier to do, a custom tool for this than it was back then.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Unity, what I remember is we were fighting the engine a lot to like make the engine do what we wanted the game to be.
Yeah.
That is not what our experience with MonoGame at all, right? Like,
right. It's more of a figure out what you want to do with it, versus this is the only thing it does. Figure out how to make your game around it, kind of problem, right?
Right.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're building certain types of games, it might be the right path for you. And if you want to have, and if you're mostly a team that is artists without technical people, it kind of helps. But in the cases where you have technical people and you have a very strong vision of what you want to see and you need a particular workflow, I think this is a better path for people.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of, maybe most of MonoGame developers are just like one guy working on their game, if that's the case.
Sure. Lots of
that
solo
you don't need an editor, So I somehow
one thing we've been proving out with the new samples and things is that the editor will be wherever you need it to be. So for the platform, we're using Blender because it makes sense to edit, change, do things, and Blender's the editor. Or if you want to use build your own look, and we've seen some of the packages in like MonoGame Extended where they're actually building their own little editors using MonoGame, but separate from the actual game.
Yeah.
And building it out and doing things. So many different ways rather than you're forced down one locked path of this is the only way to do it. Although I have built editors with Unity alongside Unity, and that's another lesson in pain of figuring out how Unity does. I mean, Unity does a lot of things great, but for a lot of projects, you're having to change your vision to fit how Unity does it, not just build your game.
Right.
I was wondering if you can talk about if there was any like extra marketing or anything like that was done for the game, or was it just quite organic?
Oh, yeah. So somehow we got in touch with people at Microsoft, and when we mentioned that we could get this game to run on Windows 8, like they wanted everything about that for some reason, right? Like maybe they were reaching out to a lot of indie people. But when Windows 8 launched, like I think they put us on the front page of the Windows Store. And it was a thing that back then, what was it? Was it called Surface? Maybe it's called something else. But they had that tablet that was Windows 8. Maybe it was called Surface then, and it ran great on that thing, right? Like it's like an iPad that was Windows, and you could touch with your finger and play this game, right? So that helped us out, and I feel like they reached out to us, honestly, is how that conversation started. Now, as far as like we also talked with Xamarin. I think we reached out to them, and they just invited us to come meet, the people at Xamarin. But I don't know that brought any like money toward the game. That was more like just future connections, maybe. Everything else was really organic, I think.
Yeah, I remember meeting you at one of the Xamarin summits way back then, and a few of the other guys. And so there wasn't that much like on the other platforms like iOS or.
Well, okay, I can remember a story now. So this music is blaring in my ears. I'm gonna go back to a different level.
Feel free to mute it if you want.
uh, yeah, so I remember a story that this is pretty funny, I think. So have you heard of, there's a YouTuber named Dan TDM who's big on Minecraft, and he's probably over the hill now. But he played this game, and when he did that, we were instantly like top of the App Store in the UK, right? And we're like out of nowhere. I think this kind of happened, and then shortly, like 2 or 3 days later, it was the US store too, right? And he just happened to play our game on his YouTube channel, right? So he reached out to us after that because he had these shows where he was going around in person. I don't know what he would do at these shows because he was like he's just a Minecraft YouTuber. And he's like, "Hey, can you make a special build of the game and like put me in the game?" And I'm pretty sure we did something like that. And it was something like if you named your friend Dan, he would turn into Dan, like a custom drawn artwork
Oh, cool.
of
Yeah.
him. So that's another thing. I would say that was organic. That we just got lucky that some YouTuber liked our game, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm sure that would help. Yeah, and adding him in as well was a nice little, like, what's the term? Like a hidden secret type thing.
yeah, and I do think that there's other things you can name your friend that will do things. When I named him Bob, I had to think for a second. Is that one of them? Yeah. Yeah, but that's a story I had
Yeah.
forgotten about.
Microsoft Bob was going to appear.
Yeah.
Don't name him Clippy.
Yeah, I was
Don't
gonna
name
say.
him.
Oh yeah, you're just gonna go with Clippy as well. Yeah.
Yeah, someone has a picture of it in the chat. That's Dan right there. If you're thinking of a Minecraft YouTuber with weird blue hair, it's the same guy, right? Like, like I think he's in a Minecraft movie in a as an extra, right? Like, and it was funny to like talk to him on the phone.
Right.
Very, very random, weird experience.
Right.
And, how did the? I mean, I'm guessing the company dealt with the fame of the game by now becoming a publisher. But how did the rest of the team deal with having? How did you guys feel about having such a hit?
Well, we felt like at that time, the company we moved into a new office that was amazing. Like we had been in this like little piece of the old mall in our town that is like an incubator for businesses, and they built this new structure downtown by a minor league baseball field, and we had the top floor of that building. And I remember looking out of the window of my new desk, and I could see the baseball field. I'm like, we just upgraded. We don't know what happened, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that all ended a few years later. But that was a great time to work for them and to be in that office. I like it. The office was new. It felt like you were at like Google or something. You know, I mean, like Microsoft offices are a little stark, but but yeah.
Fair enough. We've only got about 15 minutes left. Maybe we if you finished, Jonathan, we can go to Q&A.
Yeah,
maybe people have questions for you as well.
I felt like I was just
Sure.
playing this game, so happy to talk more.
Sure.
Bring out the cake.
Hmm.
Oh, if
I
you
don't-
want to
Yeah,
stop
was there
sharing-
anything in chat? Yeah, hold on.
Nearly went to infinity and shared everything. Oh,
So somebody was asking about model batch. Is that something we want to do? Like, yeah, I mean, there's an interesting thing about sprite batch. You had mentioned that, the whole game was built with sprite batch. Sprite batch was amazingly effective, right? Like, it was a really great design of an API for rendering sprites. It made it very simple. Here's a texture. Here's where I want you to place it. It did all the work under the hood and would take care to batch them together into good batches as long as you use the API right. To get an efficient draw, which was, pretty. I'm trying to think of other APIs around the time. Like, I don't think, maybe, I don't know where Sprite Batch came from, what the inspiration of that was, but it was a good design, and it made it very easy to build a lot of 2D content that way. There's also other tricks that we learned over the years that, that were kind of brilliant. Like, I saw one project, they use sprite batch as kind of like a deferred renderer, because you can allocate multiple sprite batches. So I can create a sprite batch and fill it with data, like fill it with draws, but don't call end yet. So it's not going to draw yet until you call end. So you could have several sprite batches going, all gathering data, and then at the very end, call end on each one, and it'll draw them in whatever sequence you call end on them. So I saw that, and somebody was using it to defer all the drawing work to a thread. So they could have a thread that's building their scene, and just don't call end. And then when it gets finally to the main scene, it's like, okay, now call end on it now that everything's kind of gathered, so they could thread all their work. This was a case where they really needed more performance. They were trying to get a couple more frames on I guess at the time we were doing was a PlayStation game, and they needed a couple more frames of performance, and this is how we pulled it off, is doing that. And it's just interesting how efficient and simple sprite batch has been. So it always comes up like, well, what's the equivalent, in 3D, model batch, sprite, primitive batch, whatever. It's probably something that we want to do or add in as another kind of tool. It's harder when it starts to getting to 3D. Especially since there's other things to consider, like instancing and things like that. But it is something that we aspire to having as some sort of concept of batching models or primitives or 3D elements in some way, to make that a kind of a first, it starts to delve into things like scene graphs and things like that. But finding an appropriate way to do that is something that we want to do as a shortcut. At the moment, the 3D platformer and Ascent, kind of have their own rendering systems. Everything renders with draw primitive, and we use the model class as, a holder of model data, but don't really use the model class to draw. We use it to kind of collect the data itself, but we kind of have our own scene rendering and everything. And I do wonder if something like a model batch or a primitive batch kind of, fits into this system in some way that makes it super efficient. The idea would be is that to have something that you could very easily just have some 3D scene rendering without a lot of effort, fairly quickly within just a stock monogame project. So yeah, that's something that's in the cards, just not something we're addressing at this second, but it's something we do want to add in.
An earlier question from Aristotle. With the new content builder, are third-party libraries going to need to update much of the way extensions work, importer, processor, writer, to support it?
Nope, all that stuff's the same. We're trying to be very careful that we don't break existing processors or anything. We want to keep all that the same. The thing that's really changing is how we execute them, and how you define content. One nice thing about the new system is that you don't have to have like a separate assembly that's just your processors in it, because we already need an assembly or a executable build that is the actual builder itself. So what we've learned is you can just put that all together. You can have your content, your definition of the content to build, and your pipeline stuff all in the same assembly. which is also nice because that means you also have a thing that you can debug. You can run this content, project, and it will, when you hit debug on the content project, it will build your content and debug it at the same time. And you could step through your pipeline assemblies and things like that. So it makes it a lot nicer, I think, overall. And we're still kind of cleaning up some of that, but it's going to be much, much nicer this way. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it, what's there. And there, you won't need to change how your pipeline stuff works. It'll continue to work as is.
And another question from the Crumpet. Would we
On
need
that last one, the only change I think we notice how you'll reference it. So in your content builder project, you can either embed your pipeline in it if you built it yourself, or it's simply just a DLL reference to the package or NuGet that you're using. It's about the only physical change, but the process and everything else is exactly the same. No code changes.
Yeah, the .mgcb is, the stuff that was defined in the .mgcb file will have to be put into the code file that basically defines how it builds your content. Other than that, nothing else changes.
Okay, yeah. So the question from the Crumpet is: would we need a content project per platform, or does the actual platform project inform how the content project builds for each one?
Yeah, it's not per platform. No, I mean how it's kind of defined, since it's code, how it works. You can say, well, if I'm targeting this platform, then include different content. So you don't have to have multiple content files. You can kind of define it however you like. So instead of like the MGCB, where you kind of had you could define things and it didn't really have a good system for, if you're building for this platform or that platform, add different content or compile it with some different parameters. There was always the intent to make it do that, but we never got to that point. With this, you totally can. You can say, if I'm building for this platform, include these files, don't include these files, or change how these files are processed. Because you just have a full, you have full access to C# and programming there. So you can fully define exactly how you want it to process. But the simple thing, and most samples will start this way, it'll just be include everything and build, because it'll automatically pick up the importer and the processor based on the input file and will process everything. It's only when we start getting to a more complex game that you'll have to start defining some specifics or doing things like filtering things out based on platform or changing what to do based on platform.
Yeah, as with everything, it's up to you how you want to do it. Whether you want to build, basically, you could do an OO project and things, so you could have interface and then different and like partial classes, and however you want to build it so that it builds content for your game. It can be as simple as a hash if, or it can be as complex as having an inheritance pipeline which says, well, I'm on this platform, so instantiate this version of my builder class, which is going to go and collect this content to then package it in my build. Or it could read if you really wanted to,
right.
You could write your own importer for the old MGBT file and have it imported if you wanted to. We would not recommend that.
All right. I mean, but to be clear, you don't have to.
Yeah, it gives you
you
more
don't have
control.
to use. Sorry, I guess we have a little bit of a delay. To be clear, you don't have to use the conditional ifs to do this. It doesn't use conditional ifs. It is just a regular if statement if you're compiling for different platforms, because it's actually running code, not a preprocessor. You don't have to build multiple times for different platforms or anything like that. As far as you don't have to have multiple builds for different platforms to build different content. So unlike the MGCB, where you would have to have multiple MGCBs, that's not necessary here.
But yeah, we're also proving more things out, because we've changed things several times already as we're effectively dogfooding the whole solution with our samples. So as we're building and we're learning it, well, no, it's better to structure it this way, better to have these included in this way, don't include that because we don't need it, and it's evolving. So as we're testing and building it, that's informing how best to use it within an actual project.
Yeah.
I think, Don, we had a few questions. They were talking about hot reloading now.
Yeah. Hi, Ricky.
I think
Will
Yeah.
effect hot reloading work the same way with the changes coming with the new content pipeline, content project approach of building content?
Right. I mean, we're considering hot reloading and how that's going to fit in. The plan is to do that. I mean, there's two systems that we're kind of figuring out right now, and we've already started on one. One is the idea that you can treat that the game can build content on the fly as required. So instead of pre-building all the content, the idea is that your builder project can be launched as kind of a server, and it will sit in the background. And when your game requests content, it will ask the builder, "Hey, I need this content," and it will deliver that content. That's helpful for cases where you have a ton of content, you don't need to build it all ahead of time, or cases where your builder might be separated from your actual platform. Like, you have your PC is running the building tool, but your game is running on a mobile phone. Having it be able to deploy that content, over the wire remotely, that's what that's for. And it's also helpful, for tooling and editors and things like that. So that's something that Harry's been working on in getting that to work. And I believe that's all there and can work. He has we haven't documented any of that stuff yet, but he's got the start there. The second thing is, yes, hot reloading. We kind of have an idea how we want to do it, but we don't have an implementation yet. But it is high on my list of things that we want to get in there. Like, I want to make it where the Ascent demo and the editor there work seamlessly, where we can change an FBX file and it just rebuilds on the fly and gives it to you. It's totally possible. There's just some little things to work out, like what happens when a texture is rebuilt, but it's being used in the scene, synchronizing when it gets updated, dealing with different platforms. There's some complexities there, but we're definitely going to make that work. I think getting that to work is going to be a big thing that will help us have a kind of more next generation content, system moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, 3.8.5, the previews for the main base content builder solution, as it were, just to almost do away with the editor. But I think it's a shame Harry's not here now to talk about this, but obviously he has demonstrated to us internally an actual content server. So it's an actually running server where you build content to the server and the game pulls it directly from the server while doing development. Well, that's still, I don't think that'll make the 3.8.5 preview because we need to do more testing on that. But
Right.
Those kind of things are hot in his mind of what capabilities and things were available. But running an active server has its own complications, like what you do about audio, what you do about music, and what you do about all the different kinds of content and how you want to run them and when and how you update them. So get the basics on first, have a alternative to the MGCB editor, as it were, and then moving everything else over onto the new way of doing things, but without critically changing your game, because your game, how you load content, how you load textures, how you do models, all of that stays the same because the game's still running through the content pipeline. It's just how you're building it and how it's more artist friendly, because artists can now, just pick up this tool, I can build my content, see if it works or not, and how it outputs and stuff like that, and have tools built up the content, not using the full game, opening up a lot of those pipelines and avenues to make them a lot more accessible. So, do you have anything else, Dom, for the last dying seconds?
There's a couple of quick ones, I think. Square Bananas was asking MonoGame Game Jam. I believe Dean is fleshing out the details for that. So hopefully at the next AMA we'll have something a bit more concrete. And the next one was, I think Solid missed the beginning of the chat when we were talking about supporting Vulkan for rendering. So I don't know if you want to go over that quickly, Tom.
I guess I'm not sure what the plan is there yet. I guess Tomas knows. You're asking about Vulkan, right?
Yes, yeah. Is there any news about moving or supporting Vulkan for rendering?
I mean,
well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a new Vulkan backend. Is that what they mean?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think he missed the beginning when you covered that. That's
Right. Yeah, I mean, the new Vulkan backend is getting there. Soon we should have that merge, and once we have that merge, then we'll start testing more stuff with it. I mean, the eventual plan is to most likely sunset the desktop GL path for the Vulkan path for desktop platforms, and maybe even Android eventually. If we get things right. So that's the plan moving forward. But yeah, for now it's mostly just experimental still, but we're going to get there. Just like with the DX12 is there, we're going to continue to move those forward, and then DX11 and GL will become old legacy path stuff, which eventually will find its way out of MonoGame. But for now, they stay.
Fair enough. Did
And
anyone? Sorry.
I posted a screenshot, by the way. Somebody asked about the content pipeline also. Then you build your stuff. And is it just basically like the old XNA with a content project? Yes, but better. It's actually a content project that you actually build code with and not just build content.
Did anyone have any last questions for Jonathan before we sign off?
If not, thanks for having me. Go for it.
When is Stickman 3 coming out?
So they did release that.
Oh, they did? I didn't realize it came out.
I'm trying to think of the year. So somewhere in 2016, the company kind of had to let a lot of the developers go.
Yeah.
Right. And Epic 3, I saw it come out, but they, went with some outside party to build it.
Mhm.
Right. So it's not the same team. I played it, and it's fun. It lives up to the franchise. But I have hard feelings about it because I didn't get to work on it at all, basically.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, I mean, that's the story of game development, right? Or game studios.
Yeah.
You have an unexpected hit, you move up to the big office on the top floor overseeing the baseball field, and then everybody's like, no. That's the story of game development.
Yeah. And what happened is we had a game that just basically flopped and died. It's a game called NBA Life, where it was like basketball NBA. And we actually had the rights to put NBA teams on it and stuff, and the thing just did not work, right? So so you can have a hit and then have a flop and you're done, so it's that's what happens.
That's the way it is.
Yeah. But that's all I have, unless you got any other questions. Thanks for having me.
Draw a Stickman VR. Oh, I don't know about that. It seems like it'd be. I mean, I could see a creepy version of Draw a Stickman VR being done, where you draw a Stickman, and he comes to life in your 3D environment.
Yeah,
Then
3D,
tries to
do some fancy extrusions.
And they might have made an AR. There might be a Draw Stickman AR.
Right.
But what it did is the little guy would appear, like you're pointing your camera at a flat surface and the little guy would appear. So.
Oh yeah, that totally exists.
Yeah.
Well,
but VR, I don't know. Is it the drawing
the
part
Stickman
feels
thing
weird.
continues. Yeah, I don't know about VR. You're right. AR is the right answer here.
Yeah.
Right. I guess we should start to draw this to a close then. Thank you everyone for joining us in our monogame journey, and as ever we're marching forward. May the pizza be with you, apparently, according to chat. As ever, if you can, try and help support monogame. Everything goes in, it goes straight into the framework and goes to help make your games bigger and better, and helps to direct us. Feature requests and issues are also welcome. Let's get in there and onward and forward, as it were, to next month for our sort of our anniversary show. Everyone's saying we have to bring cake, and we have to decide on which is our favorite cake. At the moment, I'm doing cake and frosting, so which is a .NET building process for packaging stuff for all those sticking around. So, thanks everyone for joining. Probably to everyone on YouTube, we'll get the updated version just uploaded there for the missing audio. Discord. Well, I can actually say Discord, not Unity, as I'm doing in my daily life. But anyway, thank you everyone, and we shall see you around on the channels and socials.
Bye all.
Bye. Later, everybody.
Have a great week.